winter and spring was the issuance of new uniforms. The new light blue uniforms were far less visible on the battlefield. Any little advantage, you know? Here's also a little anecdote from this week in the West about a character who would play a larger part in a different world war. On January 29th, during the fighting in the Argonne, a German lieutenant named Erwin Rommel led his platoon out to capture some French blockhouses. He crawled through the French wire and shouted for his men to follow, but they didn't. So he crawled back and told the commander of the leading platoon, quote, "Obey my orders instantly, or I shoot you," end quote. Then the whole company followed him out, and they took the blockhouses. For this action, Rommel won the Iron Cross First Class, and it soon became a saying in his regiment, "Where Rommel is, there is the front." The fronts in the West were pretty easy to spot without Rommel, though. You just had to look for the endless lines of trenches. There was another region, though, whose fronts were not nearly so obvious. That in the Middle East, the Caucasus. By this time, the Ottoman Third Army, destroyed at Sarikami, numbered fewer than 13,000 effective soldiers, and maybe 20,000 total. But there was still plenty of action going on in other parts of the Ottoman Empire. On January 23rd, 2 Ottoman divisions were defeated at Khorasan. A few days later, Ottoman assaults were renewed, but on January 27th, the Russians took Gornes and actually captured the Turkish staff. Things were still looking pretty grim for the Turks. And here are a few notes of interest from around the world. The French took Bertoua in Cameroon this week. They also decided on the 26th to participate with the British in an attack on the Dardanelles that was still in the planning stages. On the 27th, Britain loaned £5 million to Romania. And this week, Britain offers Greece concessions in Asia Minor if Greece will help out in Serbia. A few days later, the Greek government says no. And that was this week. The Austrians, Germans, and Russians clashing in the Carpathians. The Russians still beating the Turks further south. The German fleet turning tail and running home in the north. And the French and Germans banging heads again on the Western Front. Another winter assault in the mountains. That's what we're seeing on the Eastern Front. Had Conrad not paid attention to what just happened to the Turks in their mountain assault? Or did he think the situation was so desperate that it didn't matter? It certainly seemed that neither he nor many of the other leaders were learning from others' mistakes. The Turks failed to make coordinated attacks and lost again and again. The British Navy kept letting the Germans get away, even though they cracked their radio codes and knew where they were going to go. And it is painfully obvious what the result of not learning from mistakes is in modern war. It's tens of thousands of dead soldiers, many of whose loss of life was completely avoidable if only their leaders had been